What is Corner Bakery doing to right its ship? Hello, this is Jonathan Mays, Editor-in-Chief of Restaurant Business. And in this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, I speak with Chris Dharod, the CEO of Corner Bakery. Dharod is with SSCP Management, a franchisee of Applebee's and the owner of Cici's Pizza and Roy's. The company bought Corner Bakery out of bankruptcy last year. We had him on the podcast to talk about that whole process and chat with him about the way the acquisition was made. SSCP acquired the brand by buying the debt on the secondary market and then using that to take over the company out of bankruptcy, a process some folks call loan to own. Chris talks about that process, its risks, and what SSCP looks for in its investments, and how it turns them around, which is what it has done with Cici's. Corner Bakery is a particularly difficult situation. However, the brand was owned by the same owner as Boston Market and was having many of the same problems. It didn't pay many of its bills, stores were closed at random, and it was burdened by serious lawsuits and significant issues. We talk about what the brand is doing to fix all of that, what kind of people it brought in to work on the turnaround, and what kind of sales Corner Bakery is generating now. Very good. We're talking Corner Bakery on A Deeper Dive, so please check it out. All right, I'm here with Chris Dharod. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Let's start off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background before you became the CEO of Corner Bakery?
Sure. So our company, SSCP, the letters SSCP stands for Sunil, who's my dad, who started our company, Sharmila, my mom, who was with my dad when they started our company, Chris, who's me, and Pooja, my sister. So it's the initials of the four of us. We're 100% family owned. We are a franchisee of Applebee's and Sonic, and then we own Cici's, which is a pizza buffet chain. We own Corner Bakery, which we bought out of bankruptcy mid last year, and we own Roy's, which is a Hawaiian fusion chain. We also own about 100 properties, mostly single tenant, under our restaurants. About half are under our restaurants, and the other half are under other restaurants. You know, I started in our business when I was in middle school. My dad was a Burger King franchisee back in the day, and started on the Whopper line, and then moved up to working the cash register, then the drive-through, and then when I was in college, we bought some Applebee's, worked in those restaurants. Was a finance major in college, went into banking for a few years, and then I joined the family business about 10 years ago. And it's been a lot of fun. I have my dream job. I love what we do. I love so many parts of our industry and our business.
Yeah. What made you decide? What do you guys see in Corner Bakery? Why did you target it? Because you've looked at that. You looked at that before this, did you not?
We did. We've looked at that. Buying that business before. There's a lot of things that we see a lot of deals, right? And we ultimately have to really believe in the brand and the positioning of the brand. And with Corner Bakery, we believe, the food, the product's better than our peers. We believe that it's got a great brand, a great name. The locations are really strong. And, we saw an opportunity to buy a business. And, let me rewind a little bit. Our Cici's and Corner Bakery acquisitions came through situations where we purchased the debt from a lender. The previous owners were not, banks weren't thrilled with the situations they were in. So they decided to sell their debt. We bought the debt on both of those with the intention of either collecting on the debt, or if we, needed to, we'd take over the business because we liked those two businesses. And so, with Corner Bakery, great food, great product. We live in Dallas, Texas. I've lived here since I was 3. It's kind of a coincidence, but also really cool that both Cici's and Corner Bakery were both headquartered here in DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, before we acquired them. And, so we see that business really growing, and, we're really excited about where we're at and all the progress that we've made in the first 8 or 9 months of ownership.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you about that, because the process that you use is known often as loan to own. That's the terminology people use, to me at least, anyway. And it would seem to me like it's sort of a risk. You buy the debt at a discount, and brands that are whose debt is on the market at a discount are by their nature riskier concepts. How do you decide what is a worthy investment versus something that is, because I assume that you're going in there with the real goal of actually taking over the concept rather than getting the debt paid off, or does that matter to you? And then
Not necessarily. Yeah. Sorry, Jonathan. So,
No, go ahead.
I know there's, loan to own is a term out there. I don't necessarily think that we're looking to only loan to own. I'll tell you and all your listeners, Jonathan, you know this, we're in a really tough business. I mean, our margins are really low. We've had incredible inflation in our business. And making a dollar in our business is really, really difficult. And so, when we see situations where there's a loan for sale, the assets behind that loan are something that we'd be happy to own, or if we're able to, make a return on the investment of buying that loan, because to your point, we did buy those loans at discounts. If we're able to, make a return on that investment, we're happy to do that as well. However, we do target loans where if that situation doesn't work out, where we can't collect on the loan, we're just as happy owning the business. Now, the other part of your question, it's risky. It is incredibly risky. It is a very, you've got to have a strong stomach. I don't think most people, the situations that we went into with both Cici's and Corner Bakery, I don't think most people would have the stomachs for those situations. Typical private equity would not have the stomach for those situations. We bought the note under Cici's during COVID. It was late 2020 when we bought the note under a buffet chain. Now, it was a buffet chain a phenomenal business that I grew up going to as a little kid. I mean, I think I grew up 2 or 3 miles from the first Cici's location ever, right? So we knew the business really well. And, Corner Bakery was in a situation where there was a lot of past due payables. It was a rough situation for Corner Bakery as well. But ultimately we were able to, stomach those situations. And, with Corner Bakery now, we're in a really, really good place. We're really happy with where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Cici's deal for sure was a risk because at the time, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't know where buffets were going to head yet at that point. And then you had to be willing to make a bet. I mean, now I think the post, I think now the environment, we kind of know that, buffets are fine. I mean, perfectly fine as they were before the pandemic. But at the time, it was still a big question, no?
It was a big question, but Jonathan, back then it wasn't just a big question about buffet chains. That was back when, it's kind of crazy to think this was all kind of 4 or so years ago, but that was back when we weren't sure the viability of Applebee's, right? We weren't sure the viability of in-store dining. We weren't sure about gyms and airplanes. And I mean, we didn't know about the viability of a lot of businesses at that point in time. So it was a risk just for a business like that, but really any business that would have traded back then, it was kind of risky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now this one, Corner Bakery had some extremely unique problems, although not entirely unique. Usually when you buy brands like this, I assume they've got all sorts of problems and that you have to go in and fix this. But it seemed to me, at least from my perspective as an outsider, that the issues here were pretty unique. And I think the one thing that from my perspective, I'll just give you my perspective on the Corner Bakery thing, because I've spent a lot of time looking at Corner Bakery in Boston Market, which were owned by the same person. And from my perspective, I would have thought that, the lenders in that situation and everybody else would be kind of welcoming you as almost saviors, given the way things were going at the time. And that's not the case in these situations, because you have to do a lot of battle through bankruptcy and that sort of thing. And I didn't think, so there is an entire process, when you're going through bankruptcy that you have to really, you spend a lot of time doing a lot of battle during that entire process through the legal system. And I don't think a lot of people quite understand that entire situation. It took several months to clear that up.
It did, and here's what I'd say, Jonathan. My dad and I are, my sister, my mom, our company, our executive team. We're true restaurant operators. We've been in a number of situations that were turnarounds. Even if you look at the first Applebee's that we bought, we bought 37 Applebee's in DFW, which is Chili's home market, our number one competitor. We grew average unit volumes on those Applebee's 25%. And this is a story I'm telling you about that happened 15 years ago. Fast forward, to now we're talking about Corner Bakery. So it's something that we know we can go in and fix businesses that we feel have a good brand, good product, good food, etc. Separately, we don't have a investment committee. We don't have a board. Frankly, my dad sometimes doesn't even care what I want to pay for a business. He'll just say, yeah, pay whatever you want, Chris.
Really?
And so we're able to be really nimble. Yes. And we're able to be really nimble, and make decisions really quickly. On the Corner Bakery loan, we were notified, we basically closed in 3 days, and we paid all cash when we bought that note. And that's not something a lot of people can compete with us on, because they don't have the stomach for it. They can't move that quick. They don't have cash sitting on the sidelines. They do have an investment committee, or a board or whatever to report to. We don't have all those things. And so we're able to be really quick, really nimble. We've got a high pain tolerance of, that legal system that you talked about. We've got a high pain tolerance for that. And then ultimately we're restaurant operators, and we've got a great team, and a great bench, and we've got a lot of good people, and so it allows us to be able to go into situations and take care of things.
All right. Well, but I want to shift gears here and chat about what you're doing at Corner Bakery now. That we spent the first half of it talking about deep finance stuff. But I actually want to know, but you guys have done some pretty innovative things with your Applebee's units, no?
Yes, we have. I mean, with Applebee's, some of these things happened, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, but with Applebee's, I'll start with, when we first bought those restaurants, and I was in college back then, working at one of our stores. And so, this was a long, long time ago, but, we, back in the day, a lot of us probably remember Applebee's had a lot of what we call clutter on the walls. Mm-hmm. We were dust collectors, and we kind of cleaned that up. We took some of that down. We put TVs up. We opened our restaurants up till 2 a.m. No one thought anyone would want to go to an Applebee's at, 1 a.m., but we opened them up. We put some, food specials up. We did half price appetizers, which we still have now in our Applebee's, and, sales took off. We created a whole new day part in our Applebee's. That was something really big that happened way back then. The biggest thing that I think we've done was, right after, Hand Cut Wood Fire, which was a promotion for Applebee's that did not go well. Our traffic was down significantly. We came up with the Dollarita, the dollar margarita. And, that just went incredibly well. I mean, our traffic swung 15 to 20%. We were selling $300 margaritas per store per day. Our traffic was just crazy. We were getting hundreds of new guests a day and selling, these dollar margaritas. And, they eat other, when a guest comes in, they eat something, they eat some food, and, the husband may want a beer when the wife wants a dollar margarita. And so, it all worked out. I mean, it was all some really good traffic. So those are some of the innovative things we've done in our Applebee's business, and, some of the success stories.
Where did that idea come from?
Where did it come from?
Yeah. Where are you guys sitting around thinking, what should we do? Because our traffic is destroyed because of this, because of the hand-cut steaks.
Yeah.
By the way, in my time covering the industry, that was probably one of the worst marketing moves that I can recall, but I don't want to talk about that. Where did that idea were you guys sitting around thinking we need cheap booze?
Yeah, we were sitting in a room, and, it wasn't cheap booze. It was, something to get the guests to come in and get to experience Applebee's for everything that it is, but, get them to come in and get some traffic through the door. And yeah, we were sitting in a room and, we were trying to think about an idea that would kind of make it work. And, people love a margarita, and $1 is a good price point. And when you think $1 in margarita, Dollarita kind of came up, and it had a ring to it. And, that's how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. A lot of really good ideas come from franchisees, and I could do I could do all sorts of stuff on that one. But let's shift to Corner Bakery here for a bit. For the rest of the podcast, and what are you guys doing to bring that back? Because that's, it had a really difficult post-pandemic era. Even if you just take out some of the other stuff, all the corporate stuff and whatnot. I mean, Corner Bakery fundamentally for years has just never lived up to its potential that many of us saw. And I've historically been a big fan of Corner Bakery. It's never really lived up to its potential. It had the pandemic was very, very hard on brands like that. And Corner Bakery had a large number of locations in places like urban Chicago that really struggled coming back from the pandemic. So it's not you had all this other stuff, the bills and whatnot to deal with, but there was also this foundational issue. So what have you been doing to get this brand back?
So I think, Jonathan, it's more of like, what have we not done? There was and is a lot of work to be done. I think the first thing that we did was we brought in a team and hired a number of executives to help support that brand and that business. And that's been huge and incredibly helpful. And that's really where everything started. I think another big thing that quickly happened and is still happening is, the culture started to shift from a culture that wasn't one that we necessarily believed in to a culture that's, something that's people focused, guest focused. We rolled out a bonus program for the restaurant level managers. I think within 60 days of acquisition, they hadn't had a bonus program in years. That's just something small. I mean, we've added tip to allow our guests to tip on their credit cards. Most of our competitors or all of our competitors do it, but for some reason, Corner Bakery was a little behind in getting that done. That's added a lot of excitement for our hourly team members. They're making more money. They're more interested in taking care of the customers now. We've started doing a lot of marketing, right? There was not a lot of marketing that was done for a little period of time, and so we've started marketing. I think the big thing, though, Jonathan, I'd say is a lot of it's people focused. We're changing that culture and have changed that culture. There's some food innovation going on. We've got some new products coming up. There were some products that, I think needed to be upgraded. And so some of that's going around the corner. That's happening. We're about to test kiosks. We didn't have guest surveys. If you can believe that Corner Bakery, a brand that big, didn't have guest surveys. So we've added Qualtrics. So we're getting data from our customers. We're understanding what our customers are saying and what they're feeling. We will probably remodel about 10 stores this year. So we've hired a design firm to help us design those remodels. We don't have it quite done yet, but we've got about 10 stores we'll remodel, and we'll probably open 5 to 7 new stores this year as well, which I think is pretty significant. On a base of, call it 105 with our franchisees, I think we'll open 5 to 7 this year and remodel about 10. Again, I can keep going, but those are some of the big things that we've done, and I'm really proud of our team for all the work that they've done already. Again, I think our food is already better than all of our peers. One of the things, going back to what did we see in Corner Bakery when we were looking at it, I mean, there's all these opportunities and all these things that we're working on that's going to push the business forward. But even with all that, our brand's average unit volume is already $2 million today. And I'm fairly confident once we get all these things in place, we'll be flirting with the $2.5 million average unit volume in 18 to 24 months, which is, in my mind, pretty significant for a business like ours. And it's, it's exciting, really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think 2 million for a fast casual that's been through some of the things that Corner Bakery has been through is probably pretty, kind of shows you the resilience of the brand. I think one of the things that I noted about some of the things that you're doing is a lot of the team that you brought in actually it had previous corner bakery experience. So you brought people back. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, let me start by saying, we at SSCP, we really believe that every brand is really, really unique and really, really specific. And, I've seen, working in our Applebee's, working in back in the day, our Burger Kings, when I was, running shifts, I would see for Applebee's, for example, we would hire someone from Chili's and people think, oh, Applebee's Chili's really similar. We bring someone in from Chili's. It doesn't work, right? Applebee's and Chili's are different animals. Our guests visit us. We may share the same customers, but their expectations and their reasons for visiting us are very different. So we really believe that every brand is unique, and understanding that brand is incredibly important. And so as we were thinking about, Corner Bakery and we were, we had bought the note, but we didn't know, exactly the team that was there. Because when you buy a note, you don't get to do management presentations and things like that. In a typical M&A process, when you're buying a business, you get to meet the executives that are running this. We didn't get to do that. So we started to build a team. Today, Aaron Hasselgren, who's our COO, I think he spent 16 years with the brand, left for a few years. He's back with us now. He's been incredible. Bob Hartman was the VP of development for the brand for 8 to 10 years. He's back with us. He's helping lead us on these remodels, new stores, etc. Those are the two that have rejoined us with Corner Bakery experience. But Melanie Barichevich, who's our SVP of marketing, has done an incredible job with so many things on the marketing front and the branding front, who didn't necessarily have Corner Bakery experience, but someone like Melanie, what we also look for is someone who's understanding of needing to learn a brand in a new environment, a new culture, and et cetera. And so we've built our team with folks who have that experience, who understand team, TEAM, and that culture is very important to us at SSCP. And ultimately, I think we're in a really good place today.
Mm-hmm. So you're now you've generated some pretty strong sales at the back half of last year, did you not?
We did. We're up around 10%. Traffic's up, sales are up. So feel pretty good about that. I want to be up a little bit more, but still feel good about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from?
I think it's a lot of the things that we've talked about, Johnson, right? It's ultimately, I think, number one, it's that culture in our restaurants and focused on our people and our customers and that making sure that they're enjoying their time when they're in our cafes. There's marketing that's turned on, but ultimately I think that culture is already, the guests are already seeing it and feeling it. We've done some other things. We've expanded hours. We've had some new products. We're working on some new products as well. There's some marketing out there. So there's some things like that are also bringing some traffic in as well. But ultimately, I think it's the culture that's shifting and changing, and the guests feel that, and they start to come back more often.
Yeah. I think one of the easier, it would seem to me, now correct me if I'm wrong, but the challenge for you, I think, is not in the first couple of years, like especially in a situation like this. I think that just bringing some better, some more common sense to the brand after some real challenges, when you have a brand that was in sort of the dire straits that Corner Bakery was in, that, just by kind of coming in, bringing some investment, bringing some marketing, doing some of the basics right again, you can probably generate some sales in the first, just by, I mean, not saying, but like in some respects, almost by default, by simply being in there operating restaurants. And then the challenge for you long term is then just to not only to do that, but then to build off of that. Could you talk a little bit about that, or do you disagree with that?
I'll say it this way. Look, I think in our business, every year and every day is a challenge. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're McDonald's or, Wingstop, who just had an incredible year. Every year and every day in our business, you're having to innovate, shift, change. It is a really, really difficult business. So in one sense, I agree that, in a year and 2 years and 3 years, we're still going to have to be scrappy, nimble, innovative, thinking, hardworking. I agree. But look, Jonathan, I think we and our team, we came into a situation that needed a lot. There was a lot of work to be done, and having sales and traffic up right now speaks to the work that has been done. But I think the work that we've done, and maybe the work that we need to get done in the next 6 months will probably be the most work and the hardest work we'll have to do. And then after that, it's just normal restaurant business, which is, still really hard, but maybe not as hard as, when you're emerging from the situation that the brand was in a year ago.
All right, super. You mentioned now you guys are actually going to be adding locations and you're going to be remodeling some stuff. So you're actually putting some real investment into the brand. How many locations do you expect to have this year? It'll be the first time in a while.
5 to 7. Yeah, I think we'll open 5 to 7 new locations.
Mm-hmm. Any sort of shift in sort of strategy in terms of where those locations should go? Where are you thinking?
No, I don't think there's really a shift. I think, I think we understand, we understand where the business does well. One of those will be a franchisee who's opening another location. So excited that he's continuing to invest in the brand. But not really a shift in strategy. I think we do well in urban environments. We do well in kind of, suburbs and things like that. We have a big, we have a large catering mix. That's really important to our business. I don't think anyone does catering as well as we do. So, for listeners out there, when next time you're looking for some catering, please give us a chance and try us out. Because I really think we execute better and we move faster. We can do last minute catering. I think a lot of our, part of what I think really makes Corner Bakery really unique is the number of different services that we provide. We've got a coffee business, we've got a breakfast, we've got a lunch, we've got a dinner, we've got an incredible sweets and bakery business. We do a lot of different things. And I don't think a lot of our competitors, service have that many different SKUs and is able to offer the guests as many. We have all day breakfast. You can get breakfast at 8:30 at a cafe, right? So I think there's a lot of things like that we have that our competitors don't offer.
Right. Superb, Chris. That's a great spot to end on. I really appreciate you joining me this week on the podcast.
Yep, Jonathan, honored to get to be on the podcast. I've enjoyed your work for a long time, so thank you for inviting me on here.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Spoons, artwork by Nico Hines. You may find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at www.restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive. And you may subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening.